So fairly recently on the social media, there was this picture going around of a dress, and some people thought it was white and gold, and other people thought it was, I don't know, black and blue or something to this effect. And it was a bit of a phenomenon because half the people were seeing one thing and half the people were seeing another. And then a few months later, something came out where an old sound bite was played, and half the people seemed to hear it say Yanni, and the other half, I don't know, would you like a pumpkin spice latte or something to this effect? In the last 2 weeks, my social media had another equally divisive thing. It was over a song, I don't know who put it out, Hillsong, Bethel, I don't know. It's not a song our church sings, but it was a song in which God's love is described as reckless. So you've probably you've heard the song or you've seen a bit of social media debate about it. And so I just threw a poll out there on Twitter and one on Facebook and just asked what they thought of the song. And once again, people were really divided. I think it was on Facebook, it was 54% thought it was an acceptable term and it enhanced the worship experience, and others thought it was just a very unacceptable term. And as I scrolled through all the comments, because, between Twitter, I did on Twitter too, similar sort of results. It was, half the people liked, half the people didn't. But in both camps, there were people who I vaguely knew, as well as you can know someone off social media, as people who were genuinely Christians, who were part of a church, who read their Bibles, and yet different people felt very strongly about it. Like, yeah, it's a great term. Why can't you see that's a great term? And other people are like, that is a dumb term. That's a heretical term. You should be excommunicated for singing that song. And it seemed to draw a lot of strong feelings for people. And I was listening. I got to say, I didn't come to this with any strong preconceived opinions on the issue. I was more just intrigued by the debate and the depth of conviction people had on it. And I sort of wanted to reserve my judgment till I'd heard what other people had to say. So I've read a lot of the comments. And I got to say, I'm just really impressed with the people I'm networked on social media. Like, you guys aren't dummies. Like well done. Like, when you're actually asked to explain yourself, some of you gave world-class, excellent explanations why either it was completely heretical or why it perfectly captured the essence of God's love. And I think as I was reading the comments, I found myself going back and forth, alternately being persuaded by both camps because, you guys aren't dummies. So here's where I'm at now. So some of you said, well, what are you thinking about all this? So I have read the comment, or at least most of them. I think we had well over 100 comments, and there's still people commenting. So if I can try to encapsulate the best of the no arguments. So let me say, the people who say no, we shouldn't be singing that. And their argument is a very logical, sound one. It's like, God is not a reckless God. He's not impulsive. He doesn't wake up one morning in a bad mood and just, decide to do whatever based on some emotional funk. And then the next day he does something out. He's not reckless. He's intentional. He's purposeful. We can't say God is reckless, because if we're made in his image, then we'll be reckless people, and we'll be reckless with our finances and reckless with our relationships and reckless with our ministries, and we'll just create a big wreck of things. That's a good argument. That's pretty convincing. The other side, and here's where I think maybe the two sides are talking past each other. They really seem to have a different concept of mind with this term reckless. And a couple people actually bothered to find different dictionary definitions that they were posting. Some more in line with one side, some in line with the other. There seems to be a bit of a lexical range there in terms of flexibility of understanding the concept. The other side was, well, of course, God's love is reckless. We have our Tower of Babel, our perfect and pure religion, and he comes and just knocks it all over, and he picks up the whip and kicks over the tables, and he takes the big curtain in the temple that's so nice and pristine and rips it in half. And in order for God to love us, he tears down every high thing and everything that exalts itself against the knowledge of Christ, and he makes a wreck of our humanity. He brings the proud down from their thrones and he creates a wreck. Just think about Job. Job had this nice life and God made a wreck of it in order to bring him to a deeper understanding of himself. Of course, God's love is just reckless. They weren't thinking of reckless in the sense that it didn't have a point. They were thinking of reckless in the fact that God seems, at least from an earthly, existential standpoint, to sometimes make a wreck of things. And so I guess after hearing both sides, it depends what's going through your mind when you say the word reckless. If you think it without purpose or intention or based on some emotional moodiness, then don't sing it. Of course it's blasphemy. But if you're thinking in the second definition, which I just explained, then I understand why it can be beautiful, So I think it's probably fine for private worship, if that's what's going through your mind when you sing it at home. I think, though, if you play it in a church, just be aware that half the people, something else may come to mind when you're up there on the stage singing about God's reckless love. Half the people might be with you, but half the people might be scratching their heads thinking, "Hey, how's God's reckless?" And so if you're going to do it for corporate worship, I feel it almost needs a little bit of an explanation. And there is also the fact that this is a song. It's poetry. The Psalms sometimes use hyperbole in a way different than the epistles. Sometimes poetic worship can employ terms and images that you wouldn't necessarily use in a systematic theology. I don't think I'd ever open up a systematic theology and see chapter 4, God is holy, chapter 5, God is reckless. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm kind of okay with people singing the song, even if I'm a pastor. I don't know if I'll be asking our church to sing it anytime soon. I also think with all the issues going on in the church right now and all the infiltration of false teaching, that this is probably one of the last things we need to be arguing about, especially on social media. Later, you guys are brilliant. Love to both sides in this debate.